at various stages of the year, the body will go through a lot of different hardships, from the training we're playing, the matches we're training, or other stresses we encounter through our day-to-day lives, let it be family, exams, work, whatever it might be. All that means we're either adapting or trying to recover from the different bits of training that we're doing. I want to get an expert on here to talk about recovery who knows it really, really well from running his own recovery business, but also knowing a good bit about the science leading to recovery and adaptation and the differences between them. This is going up as both podcast and YouTube video-wise, so you can get to see the man in action himself, Damien O'Sullivan, back after being on a few weeks ago to talk about briefly his own recovery room, company, business that he has set up, but also to give a lot of information. I think you'll benefit from the fact here that Damien is being really honest. He's not just trying to sell his recovery, he's trying to give us real insight and nuance into how recovery works, who it benefits, but more importantly, what aspects don't actually benefit. And I think this honesty showing how he's maybe not the best salesman, but he is a man who does understand how recovery works and how it can benefit you. So that's what's coming up next, and I hope you listen in and get some insights from it all. You're back, and we're going to be like the bro podcasters, Joe Rogan and all them boys. I'm going to start off by front loading my ads, so you can plug Beo Aris here and say whatever you like now. I'm going to make sure today's episode is sponsored by Beo Aris. It's going to be the best €1,200 you've ever spent on something.
So I'm the owner of Beo Aris Wellness and Recovery Suite in Toker there in Cork. I suppose we've a mixture of people coming into us. We've a lot of people from sporting backgrounds, GA, rugby, running. We've a mixture of people who are pushing themselves with their high rocks, CrossFit and stuff like that as well. But yeah, we're just a small little recovery business there in Cork. So trying to keep bodies moving, keep people feeling fresh and ready for action.
Recovery suites are a new enough phenomenon. Like, what do you have in there? What do you do? What do people go in and? Like, if I'm going into you to do recovery, what can I do?
Yeah, so it's they've really kind of taken off over the past maybe 4 or 5 years around the country. Coming into me, what we have is Cryo spa baths. So we have 2 cold baths there, or as people like to refer to them as ice baths. But they're Cryo spa baths that we have, and I run them in around roughly about 2 degrees, so they're pretty fresh. And I have a hot plunge, an infrared sauna, and I have compression boots as well. So normally what I do if somebody comes in the door to me is that I take them through some contrast water therapy, where we go into our Cryo spa bath and then we move over into our hot tub, and we go over and back between the 2 of those there. I suppose one of the big things with that is we're trying to reduce inflammation, exercise-induced inflammation, or sometimes it can be, say, an injury, say a rolled ankle or something like that, where somebody's just trying to get inflammation down as quick as possible so that they can get back competing. But that then is paired with time in the infrared sauna, which it's a little bit different to your traditional saunas in that the infrared rays penetrate the skin, heat you from the inside out. I have a good few people who come in. Again, I suppose I should be saying that this is just feedback from people, that people come in, say, with Achilles issues and that, and they happen to find that it helps to relieve quite a bit of pain from stuff like that. Again, look, tendons are poorly supplied with blood flow, so maybe increasing the direct heat on them it helps to support the increase in blood flow to them. And they can be great for people who are looking to maybe access the benefits of sauna, but not want to be in a sauna that's extremely hot, like your traditional kind of saunas, your Finnish saunas that could often be 80, 90, 100 degrees plus. The infrared sauna runs in around 60 to 65 degrees, so it's much milder from a sauna experience, temperature wise, but you still get all the same health outcomes that you would get from a traditional sauna. Then finally you get access to our compression boots, which I use the Normatec, high-priced Normatec compression boots, and they're, as they say, they literally fill with air, compress around your legs, hips and arms, depending on which ones you have on. And what they do is they force blood flow up out of your legs. This is going to carry lactic acid with it, or any kind of inflammation up out of the area that's in the compression boots. And this is going to, push up through your kidneys, your liver, pancreas and so on, dropping off those waste products. It's also going to go up through your heart and your lungs at a faster rate. And then as the compression relaxes around different areas of your legs, arms or hips, whatever you're wearing at the time, you have blood flow rushing back in there, so reoxygenated blood flow back in there, speeding up recovery. They're also big for people looking for lymphatic drainage as well.
And what's most popular? Like, if a group comes in, is there a queue for one thing and maybe something else is lying idle, or are they generally similar-ish?
Yeah, I suppose the compression boots are the least invasive of the lot, in that you don't have to change out of your clothes or anything at all like that. You just go in, sit down, put them on and lie back. And so I'd have a good few people coming in for those. They bring in eye masks, noise blocking headphones, and take a 30-minute nap, which, as we know, like, sleep is a huge, is the main, I suppose, point that we should be focusing on when it comes to recovery. So getting a 30-minute nap there in your day can be quite beneficial for a lot of people, especially if you happen to be sleep poor. But other than that, then it would be the cryo spa baths. People come in for those because on whatever, if we want to look at, say, inflammation reduction there, you do get a good degree of pain sensation reduction. You do get a release of dopamine or norepinephrine, so those feel-good hormones. You do feel amazing coming out of them. Now, people do, I do have a lot of people coming into me on a weekly basis who would report back to me that they feel like they can go back training hard after that. They come in, they're quite tired, they're quite sore, into the baths, go through our contrast water therapy, and they are ready for action again. So there is a real immediate feeling of kind of alertness, awakeness, and just being less sore than you might have been coming in.
Two bits I just want to jump in on there. Like, first question is inflammation bad? Like, before, you would have been told that, oh, that's inflamed, get ice on to get the inflammation out there. Is the inflammation actually part of the recovery process and the time that's required, or is it like a bit more nuanced than that?
No, yeah, you've nailed it there, and it's a conversation I would have with clients when they're coming in. I always ask, what's brought you in here today? Inflammation has a place, and it's a key part of our not just our recovery, but in our development as, say, an athlete. If you're looking to build strength and you're doing a gym session there, you're doing a weight session, and you're coming from that into a cryo spa bath or into an ice bath, you are stunting your body's recovery process there. You are slowing down your body's ability to adapt to the stimulus you just put on it. That, from that perspective, inflammation post gym, post lifting, post hypertrophy, post strength sessions there, that is incredibly important, and we don't want to interrupt that in any way. What we want to do in those situations is we want to ensure we're having sufficient amount of protein in our day to help to support muscle, the muscle breakdown, to help to support that muscle strengthening post training. So that's really important. That inflammation there is going to be so important after training. So if you're coming from a gym session and getting into an ice bath, you're slowing down your actual development as an athlete. I suppose a good time that you could look to use a cryo spa bath or an ice bath or something like that post recovery, when you might have some inflammation, could be post field session, post running session, where you're looking to kind of, you're just looking to feel fresh. You're looking to allow yourself to feel a little bit more recovered and get back to training the next day. So often people can feel quite leggy or heavy set in their legs, especially if they've been doing a long run, or say if you happen to be a triathlete and you're doing a brick session, you can feel quite fatigued there, quite leggy after those kind of heavy sessions. So from that perspective there, you could look to use your contrast water or cryo spa baths there to help re-energize you, allow you to feel a little bit fresher. But yeah, for anything in around the gym session, I would be highly against you kind of jumping into a bath.
You kind of touched on the second bit. I want to jump in on that. So is there a difference between recovery and adaptation? Are they similar but different? And kind of preempting your answer, does that mean what you might do for recovery might be time of year specific? And think of like pre-season, league, championship here now.
Yeah, it should be time specific. Yes, it's like realistically, if we're looking at the GA season right now, we're looking to drive adaptation to the workload that we're doing, so that we can maintain a certain degree of fitness and strength across the year. If you're stunting that at the moment, well, you're putting yourself up against it for later on in the year, when the work you're putting in now is going to have its most effect in a couple of months time. If you are jumping in and out of ice baths, cryo spa baths, and that, a couple of times a week post training, you are going to have a more negative impact on your adaptation to your training load. So the time of year, generally speaking, pre-season is not the time you should be jumping in and out of these baths. Once you're kind of into your season and you're into your games, then you can possibly, you could be looking at that. I know we could, with the GA specifically, we're looking at, we've leagues, we've championships and that. So a lot of people will look at, say, oh, we'll only do that in championship. I do find that a lot of people who are trying to improve across their season, post games in their league will find a benefit from it, because they're able to come out of games where they're maybe sore, they've taken a few hits, they're tired, and it allows them to press the reset button and go into the next week feeling a lot more refreshed and recovered to drive on for their next week of training into their next game. But yeah, generally speaking, I would say pre-season isn't a time that you should be jumping in and out of those baths.
Because it's blunt, and like, while you'll feel better, you're not getting the same boost or increase or adaptation in fitness, because the ice or whatever might be slowing that down. But say come August, September, and you've championship match Sunday, training Tuesday or Wednesday, championship match Saturday, it's not about getting fitter from those, it's about getting out on the feeling good and getting out on the field for the next session, and your recovery stuff is really beneficial there.
Exactly. And I suppose I focused in on the cryo spa baths there, but the compression boots, they're something that you can use pretty much right throughout the year, because all that's doing is speeding up your body's own natural recovery process. So yes, you'll feel lighter from them, yes, you'll feel more relaxed from them, you might even get a nap in with them on, but they're not going to stunt any adaptations that we would be looking for from, say, a pre-season, or say from a strength or a hypertrophy session.
And like your say recovery there, something I wonder about time as well is the difference between like passive and active recovery. So obviously Normatec, does it sometimes just force people to do nothing? Does it help people get out of their own way? That GA don't tend to be too bad for you. Sometimes like to go a bit damn crazy with the foam roll and all. But runners and triathletes can be the worst ever. And going for a recovery run, like, you're wrecked. Why are you going to run 5k? Or you've done 15 hours of training this week. Why are you doing an hour of recovery on a bike that's not really helping you recover? But then are there times where a little bit of being active can be helpful? Or does like the sauna and the increased blood flow from that mimic what's happening in active recovery?
Yeah, it's we live in a time where everyone needs to be doing more, and so many people perceive that they need to be doing more. Recovery is a very simple thing. It's trying to do as little as possible to allow your body to actually recover. Your sleep is going to be your number one way of recovering. If you're going hard, you're doing 15 hours a week of training or plus, and you're choosing a recovery run or recovery cycle there, you're getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night, you really are you've misunderstood what recovery actually is. So from that perspective, your sleep has to be your number one, and less can be more there from that perspective. So putting on the compression boots, getting into sauna, winding down, just giving yourself time to do as little as possible. If that's going to a recovery suite or going to a sauna or whatever it might be, to just sit, to just not move, and that's the only thing you do in the day. If that's what helps to keep you on track with, look, I needed to do something today for my own headspace, so I went to that facility and I did that for a recovery perspective, then that can be very positive. But when we're looking at recovery, like recovery it has now become an exercise. There are a lot of people out there where, it has to be, I have to get on a bike, I have to do this. You can just go for a walk. You can just go for a nap. You can just I really enjoyed there a few years ago. There was a trend from professional athletes, and they were comparing themselves to the latest fitfluencer. My recovery day protocol, and the detail of the fitness influencer from the moment they get up to the moment they go to sleep of this recovery day, and it just clips to the professional athlete, and they're just playing PlayStation and in their sleep. 3 hours later they wake up, they've food, they fall back asleep again. There's this misconception that we need to be doing this really, specific exact thing. You can just go for a walk. And so from that perspective, throwing on, say, compression boots, getting into a sauna if that is your way of kind of going, okay, I've gone here and I've done this and that's helped me to recover, and that's how you mentally are able to approach it, brilliant. But ultimately, if it's your sleep, your diet, light movement, going for a stroll. That when I say going for a walk, I've seen people going for a walk, and it's a fast walk, and they're pushing themselves. Just go for a stroll, meet a friend for a chat. It doesn't have to be something that is overly complicated or overly stressed. It shouldn't be overly stressed. It should be quite relaxed. So yeah, recovery it's an interesting area, but there's less is more often with when it comes to recovery.
I was going to ask, what is the low-hanging fruit in terms of recovery? You've kind of touched on it there, through sleep, nutrition, hydration, and I'd probably add to that actually managing your training load. Now, if you go off and do nothing to a load, or doing a little bit to an awful lot, it doesn't matter what you're doing recovery-wise, it's just your body isn't able to cope with all that extra stress that's putting on it. Interesting bit that just came up to me there, and you kind of touched on it. Is there are there individual differences? I have no idea scientifically how you'd really measure this properly, but is there anything to be said for a group going in together and just hanging out in the recovery room? Even what to do might not be overly important. It's just the social interaction helps them recharge, versus some people who you mentioned they're going in with the noise cancelling headphones and just spend time alone. So some people just need a chance to get away from the rest of the world to recharge their batteries. Are there a few bits to that?
So there's certainly a wide body of research out there speaking on social contact, with your teammates, with your friends, whatever it might be, and the feel good factor that can come as a result of that. So it could be doing anything, but actually getting a group together to do something maybe novel together, or do something that you work in as part of your routine together, can be quite beneficial there for people. So yes, I would have a good few people who come in groups, and that they love it together. They come in, they chat together, they go through the baths together. So there's a bit of, there's a bit of support there. There's a bit of, you found that hard, I found this, or, there's a bit of, I suppose, engagement there between people, chatting spending time in the sauna together, just chatting. It can really kind of bring people together. It's almost, I suppose, with the trends that are there at the moment, it's being deemed the new pub. That people are kind of going to, instead of going out for pints, they're going, hey, let's go and grab a sauna session together and catch up. So from that perspective, yes, you'll have the actual physiological feeling associated with what you've done, but then there's also the psychological impact of the community that you're engaging with there. But on the other side, if you happen to be somebody who is all go, there are people pulling off you left, right and centre, you find it very hard to get time to yourself, then from that perspective you also have the I suppose the benefit of, say, a facility like my own, where you can come in and just switch off, and it gives you time that maybe you just don't have elsewhere in your week.
Yeah, I'd be a fan of a bit of alone time now myself, so to find ways you can do that. Do you have a PlayStation or anything like that there, or TV's going, or what do you do that way?
I actually don't. So I do know a lot of the businesses or a lot of the similar businesses they do, and it's quite engaging. I actually promote a very relaxed kind of almost a spa-like feeling. So it's a dark room for the contrast therapy room, which would be the baths and the sauna, with a bit of chromotherapy lighting in the sauna, and then the compression boot room is a dark room as well. People like to go in there and just wind down, and even with groups going in, I'll often walk in to check in the booths, and there could be a group of 8, 9 or 10 people, and there's silence. People are just happy in their own little bubble, but they're there with people. So I promote a very kind of a chilled, relaxed kind of a focus, and really promote that kind of not talking, not chatting your way through, the session, and a lot of that would be, I suppose, one of the things that a lot of my clients do enjoy is that they do get that opportunity to just, they're away from screens, they're away from stimulation, they're just able to wind down, get through the experience, feel good, recharge their batteries, and then feel refreshed leaving.
Just kind of be present and in touch with their body. There may be stages then, say like August, September, when it's peak championship, you could throw on like Premier League years or a few repeats of Laker Gale or something like that. Aim it towards your clientele at different stages of the year. What are some bits some people do, not necessarily with yourself, but, and we kind of touched on it already, for recovery, that's like not worth it, either has a negative effect or is just not worth the effort? In terms of equipment, in terms of techniques they use, that way, either is negative or net neutral. You've seen others like.
Well, like I was saying with the cryo spa baths post gym session, there are a lot of people doing that. They're chasing hypertrophy, chasing building strength, and they're jumping straight into ice baths. That is something, again, I do spend time with my clients coming in, trying to educate them on when, what, and how. But I suppose one of the common things that is, you look in any GA bag around the country, there's quite possibly a foam roller sitting inside there. Are you getting much from that? Like the research would suggest no. Do you feel good? Do you have that perception of like, look, actually I rolled out my IT band and I feel a bit looser? Then I can't argue with that. But from what we see from research, and a vast body of research, they really aren't doing anything. You're not rolling out knots. That's not happening. You're not lengthening out you're not working through your fascia. It's much stronger than any force that you're going to put through it through a foam roller. So yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions specifically on foam rollers, and a lot of people spend a lot of time on it when maybe they could be doing maybe putting that time into going for a walk, catching up with people, maybe spending time on skill development in their sport. It's probably not necessary.
It's sometimes trying to be ultra conscientious, that like, think of the most conscientious person put them in the forest and give them an axe. What'll they do? They'll start chopping down trees. No one asked them to chop down trees. There's no need to chop down trees, but like, I need to be doing this. I should be busy. I should be chopping down these trees. There's an axe there. You mentioned to me before one day about saunas, but being mindful of hydration around that. That someone might go for a long run, be quite dehydrated, then go into a sauna. That's possibly having a negative effect too, is it?
Yeah, so it's something I would. I'm a strength and conditioning coach as well, as we mentioned in the previous episode, and it's something I do try to talk about with athletes I work with. Finishing a session and getting into a sauna, or playing a game and getting into a sauna. The sauna it's not going to have a negative impact on, say, your physical recovery, but it will delay the time for you to actually rehydrate fully from a long run, whether it's a field training session or a game, because you're already going to be dehydrated. You're already going to have lost a lot of salts there, and you should be focusing in on getting that your hydration levels back up before getting into a sauna. I do think that there is a little bit of with the trend that's there at the moment, and like I do personally believe it is a net positive, the sauna experience, because there's huge amount there from a community perspective. It really does fill in a lot more with living maybe a more health conscious lifestyle. But from an athletic perspective, from a sports perspective, dehydrating yourself more on top of already being dehydrated is not going to have the positive impact that you necessarily think. You might feel good, but you are pushing yourself into levels of dehydration that would be kind of perceived to be a little bit unsafe, and definitely are going to have an impact on your actual recovery from trainings, games, and so on. So yes, from a hydration perspective, it's something I would be saying, work it into your week. Absolutely, by all means, have that session, have that sauna session in there, but it shouldn't be in the lead up to a game. Absolutely not. And it should possibly not be directly after a training session or directly after a game. I was working with a team last year where every one of our away games, we stayed in a hotel, and we happened to have a very bad league. Didn't win any game. And it was something that we, in the away game, and when we reviewed how we approached our away games, it was like, look, I just asked, let's talk about from when we all meet up to the start of the game. Let's just go through things step by step. And throughout the conversation, it became apparent that every time we went away, to stay in a hotel, there would be a big sauna session the night before a game. So I've spent a week talking to lads about how to hydrate, how to prepare accordingly so that they're sufficiently fueled and hydrated for a game. And then they've gone into a sauna the night before a game and, taken away a lot of the loaded up fluids that they would have been building up over a few days. So a small change in that, and our performances away actually completely changed. We didn't get fitter, we didn't get faster, our game plan didn't change, but we stopped going for saunas the night before a game, and it had a pretty significant impact on how we performed as a team, which I found to be, it was alarming in the first place the lads were doing it, but it definitely had a negative impact.
And with the potential dehydration, should you be bringing a bottle of water into the sauna with you, some electrolytes, or is that a little bit of overkill? Drink some before, drink some afterwards, and you'll be grand.
Generally, drink some before, drink some after, you should be fine. Unless you happen to be somebody who's going for, 45, 60-minute sauna sessions, then you probably should have water in there with you. Generally speaking, if you're going for your 20 to maybe 30 minutes, anywhere in that range, going in hydrated and having water for afterwards is the main thing. Obviously, if you like to have it inside just to keep your core temperature under a bit of control, by all means have it with you. But you don't need to be going down this route of loading up your water bottle with electrolytes and you're downing a litre and a half of water inside there, and then chasing it with drinking your normal amount of water in the day as well. Once you're hydrated going in and have water for afterwards, you should be pretty good.
And the saunas beside like rivers or the sea or that way, is there an added benefit that is that essentially your contrast stuff, or is it just generally a nice experience?
It's just generally a nice experience. There is obviously the contrast of going into the sauna, getting a good sweat on and coming out from it. There's still that contrast there, but realistically, unless you're getting a good bit of time in the water, generally from what I see, people dip into the water and get back out and get back into the sauna again. You're mostly going there for the heat, and it's just a nice experience overall. There are obviously going to be physiological adaptations to that, but for most people, they are spending majority of time in the heat, and they don't spend much time in the river, sea, or ice bins that might be next to them.
Yeah, nice experience. Like you were touching on earlier, so a sauna and a coffee is the new pints in a game of pool. For anyone who doesn't have access to a recovery room, there just isn't one nearby, or time-wise you can't get to it, what are some simple things you can do at home or nearby, make use of your natural resources? I know you touched on just going for a walk there, but are there any other little bits that could somewhat mimic the benefits you can get without going ham crazy?
Get enough sleep, prioritise it, make time for it, get to bed at the same time every night. Be selfish with it, get up at the same time every morning, have your body trained into the same routine. Just get a routine with your sleep, eat enough protein, fuel yourself enough with enough energy throughout your day. Go take time, out in nature. There is a body of research out there showing us the positive impacts of getting out in nature and just spending time outside, going for a stroll, going for a walk, meeting a friend. That we don't have to overcomplicate it. Yes, we can look at, say, the recovery suites and using your compression boots, your contrast water, and trying to get that extra 2, 3, 4, 5%. But ultimately, if your 90% is struggling, getting into a recovery suite and doing that extra 2 to 3% you're kind of putting the cart before the horse a little bit. So if you don't have access to those kind of facilities, do look to prioritize your sleep. Make sure you're consuming enough protein, enough energy for the load that you have. So whether that's triathlons, whether that's you're running, whether it's GA, whatever it is, that you're actually looking at your energy output and you're fueling yourself enough for what you're doing, and then just taking time out in nature to just be present.
Excellent. I really value you giving like the why behind a lot of stuff. Probably makes you into maybe not the greatest salesman for your recovery suite, but I think the honesty will shine through to more people. Give yourself a last little plug there again, just to say, okay, here's all the science why something's work and something doesn't work, but come to my place again.
Yeah, so I think there are a lot of people who are quite, it's business, you're trying to make money, and I get that, I do get that, but at the same time, you can do things well and right too. I have a lot of people coming into me, I have a lot of people coming into me to use my facility, to spend time with friends. I have a lot of people coming into me because they are struggling to, feel fresh from a game into a training session, or they happen to be putting up, big mileage with their running or with their cycling and running each week, and they are leggy, they're tired, and they're looking for a refresh button. There are benefits to using a recovery suite, absolutely, but there's no point in me sitting here and saying, hey, this is the best thing in the world, this is what you need, you have to be doing this. If you're not doing this, you're going nowhere. That's dishonest. And yes, there's a huge benefit to coming into my place. It's Beo Aris is the name, which translates to alive again. We've a butterfly as the logo for the business. So the whole idea is that you come in as a caterpillar, you come in and use our facility, which is your cocoon, and you leave as a butterfly. I know, John, I can see you rolling your eyes, but it's the kind of, that is the actual experience that people have from our facility. I love engaging with clients coming in, asking why you're coming in, what's bringing you in, and then asking people how they are when they leave. And with almost across the board to everyone I have coming in each day, each week, they feel amazing leaving. Their sleep is often much better that night. They have a much more relaxed demeanor. They feel much fresher in themselves, and they do feel really good. So there is science behind all this, but ultimately it's just how you feel. And are you able to, is it a great opportunity to say catch up with friends? Is it a great opportunity to give your body a refresh there, where you feel something much different to what you're feeling each day and each week? I know for myself, I train a lot, and I really enjoy it from a headspace perspective. When I get into the baths, I use them as an opportunity to take time to myself, to meditate, to focus on my breathing, to slow myself right down and become quite present in the moment. And you feel quite alert and quite alive and quite good for the rest of the day, and even for a day or two afterwards. So there are benefits to it, absolutely. But if you're serious about your sport and you're not hitting that 90% beforehand, coming into a recovery suite, you're really putting the cart before the horse. So as much as I want to sit here and say, do you know what, I'm what you need, this is absolutely what you need, I would be saying this to you if you came in the door to me as a client as well. What are you doing outside of here? Are you paying attention to your sleep? Are you getting out for light walks? Are you actually, taking time to focus in on what you're eating? And are you having enough? Are you managing your stress? We live very busy lifestyles. It's very normal for people to be quite highly stressed all the time. So from that perspective, I have a lot of people come in, and back to your point where you like alone time. I have a lot of people who are they're quite under pressure, they're quite stressed, and they come in because they can go, my phone's on do not disturb, I'm inside in a bath here, focusing on my breathing, focusing on being present in the moment. I go into the sauna, I'm spending time here, I might have someone across from me to chat to, but I'm taking this time to completely switch off from the stresses and pressures I have outside of here. So are there benefits? There absolutely are, but it just depends on the individual as to what it is, what kind of benefits they're going to get from the place.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks, Damien. Do you have any socials you want to plug here now? Throw them out.
Yeah, so I have Beo Aris on Instagram, so it's Beoaris. It should be iFada, but Instagram don't allow the fada. But Beo Aris on Instagram would be the best way to find the page. And yeah, we've a lot of good offers there, and a lot of information up on what we provide to people there.
Excellent. Thank you.